Today on Passion for Food, we'll be making this epically delicious and yet easy to make pork fried rice. I really love authentic fried rice, but most of the time when I order it from a restaurant, I just get something that vaguely resembles fried rice. So today I'll show you the right way to do an authentic fried rice dish. So let's walk on in and get started here. The first thing we want to do for our pork fried rice is to get our pork ready. So I have about a half pound of pork loin chops here. It helps a whole lot if those are still frozen. You can trim off this fat if you want, but they're fairly lean, so I'm just going to leave that on there. We're going to be cutting this into cubes today just so everything cooks nice and evenly for us and it'll look pretty in the final dish. So we just want to cut down lengthwise and then rotate 90 degrees and cut across. That way we get those perfect little cubes of pork, and you can see just how easy that is while it's still frozen, so I definitely recommend working with it that way. You can see the size we're looking for there, about 1/4 inch pieces. And we're gonna go ahead and crack some fresh black pepper onto these, along with about a tablespoon or so of salt. Once we're happy with that, we just want to get this mixed around to distribute that seasoning as evenly as we can. We don't have to get that absolutely perfect because this is going to sit and thaw, and as it does, the seasoning should distribute on their own anyway. So while that thaws, let's go ahead and get our rice going. And with our rice, I often hear people say you have to use day-old rice. However, I have found that fresh rice works even better for this in my opinion. The main thing is it does need to be properly cooked. If you use soggy rice, you will get soggy rice in return. You should be able to scrape your cooked rice like that and it be nice and dry and fluffy. So we're just going to leave that uncovered for 5 or 10 minutes to cool. And while our rice is cooling off, we can go ahead and heat things up with our wok. The design of a wok is actually perfect to be heated over a flame the way it's rounded that way. Because of that rounded wok design, you get a lot more heat transfer out of a flame than you do a flat top. We can, of course, still use a flat top for this. It just takes a little bit longer. Plus, I mean, who doesn't like playing with fire? I know I do. So our burner is on and our wok is also on. We are going to briefly heat our wok before we add our oil. After about 30 seconds, you should be able to feel the heat coming off the wok. So we're going to go ahead and add 2 or 3 tablespoons of oil to this. I'm using canola oil. It has the best ratio of omega-3 fatty acids. And after a moment, we should see that oil just shimmering slightly. That lets you know it's hot enough to go in with our pork. And as we're placing this in here, notice you want to get it as close to the wok as you can. Don't drop that from way up high. You're going to splash yourself with oil, and that's just no fun. Additionally, we want to have maximum surface area contact between the wok and our pork. So once all the pork is in there, we're just going to give it a quick pat down with a metal spoon. And then we just want to leave it alone for around 2 minutes, depending on how hot your wok is. That way we'll get a nice brown crust that really packs in the flavor. What should normally happen is the meat will stick to the pan at first, but once the crust forms, it will actually release. So if your meat is ripping as you're stir-frying, you may be stir-frying it a little too soon. Let it sit for a moment. You can tell from the color and the sizzle that these are ready to stir-fry, so let's go ahead and give those a mix, and you can see that beautiful brown crust that they formed on that side. And again, we're going to let these sit and sizzle away for a minute or two. And at that point, we'll give this a final toss. The more brown I see in the pan, the more I like it. And I'm going to let this cook 1 more minute while I go get a bowl ready. At which point you can see we've really developed a lot of beautiful color here. So I'm going to go ahead and lower my flame so we can get this out and draining for a moment. So here I just have a strainer inside a small bowl, and I'm just going to carefully move our pork over into here. It didn't actually wind up needing to drain. I got no liquid in the bowl at all, but hey, better safe than sorry. So we're just going to put this aside, hopefully out of reach of any furry bandits, and go straight back on with our wok. Our oil here has now been infused with that pork flavor, so we're going to go ahead and go in with 1 large chopped onion. along with one large sliced zucchini. Oh, a little stuck there. And to give it a little extra crunch, I'm going in with 2 ears of corn. That's about 1 can's worth. Unlike our meat, we do want to stir our vegetables quite frequently. And this is a good time to go on with about 2 teaspoons of salt. I do also like to get a bit of a sear on my veggies, but they're going to stick to the wok a lot more, so we have to watch out for that. And how done you want these is really a personal preference. For me, the only thing I wanted to be crunchy in my final dish was the corn, so I'm going to stir fry these quite thoroughly. After about another 2 minutes, I was happy with the color I achieved here. So I'm going to turn my flame back down, and we're just going to put this straight on top of our pork. I am going to add one final thing to that, and that is 2 scrambled eggs. You could even use 3 or 4 or none at all. That is up to you. And unfortunately, usually at this point, we're going to need to give our wok a quick clean. You see all that stuck on stuff from the vegetables? We cannot stir fry the rice in a dirty wok. So once that's clean, we're going to go back onto our heat. And to actually fry our rice, I'm going to go in with about 2 tablespoons of salted grass-fed butter. This will melt very quickly, so we want to give it a quick swirl around the pan before we get ready to go straight in with our rice. By this time, my rice was pretty much room temperature, but if it's still a bit warm, that's fine. And again, we want to be maximizing that surface area that the rice is contacting, so once we have our rice in, we'll give that a nice pat down with our spoon. And like the meat, we want to let this sit so it can develop a nice crust. As it cooks in with that butter, it will develop a beautiful brown color. So let's skip ahead about a minute and give this a stir. And we can see we're already developing some nice color there. You want to basically scrape down the wok and try and just flip everything over so we can get a second side toasted. And then we'll give it another quick pat down and let it cook for another minute or 2. At which point we'll just give it another stir. If things are sticking horribly, you may need to either use more butter or lower your temperature a little bit. We can see these delicious brown bits developing. We want a lot of the brown color from our fried rice actually being fried rice, not just the soy sauce we're going to add in a minute. Now, if you see little wisps of smoke like that, it's not necessarily time to panic. This is another technique where your nose knows best. It should smell like toasting rice, not burning rice. So let's give this another quick mix and let it cook for about another minute or 2. We could actually pull it off right here. It just depends how fried you like your fried rice. The more toasty rice we get, the more flavor we get. However, the rice will start to stick and burn after a while, so we definitely have to watch for that. After about another 2 tosses, I had reached toasty perfection, so we're going to go in here with about 1.5 tablespoons of soy sauce. You'll hear that sizzle away as it caramelizes on the bottom there. We can't leave that too long or it will burn, so let's go ahead and get that all mixed together. In my opinion, the ideal rice has streaks of light rice and dark rice, so you can kind of see where that caramelized soy sauce is, but you still get that definition on your crispy toasted rice. And it's finally time to bring everything together, so we're just going to dump in our bowl with our vegetables, pork, and eggs. And we'll just get that mixed in with our beautifully toasted fried rice. And that's it. This beautiful pork fried rice is ready to serve. So let's grab a plate and give it a try. And for a little extra color and a little oniony crunch, I'm just going to garnish this with a little spring onion. And I'm going to go in for a quick taste. I really love the deep flavor that the rice develops as you toast it in with that grass-fed butter, along with that super flavorful pork. I really love how this dish turned out, and you can mix and match in whatever vegetables you would like. So what foods are you passionate about? Is there something you'd like to see me prepare next? Let me know in the comments below. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Passion for Food. If you have, please give me a thumbs up below and consider subscribing and hitting that little bell to be notified of our future episodes. This has been Graham with Passion for Food.